The Against All Odds podcast, sponsored by Oak Forest Recovery. This one's on you, buddy.
Is it? I'm terrible at it.
Just do it.
Like, welcome. Welcome to our podcast. Do it in a British accent.
Do it over the top. Just try.
I can't do it.
Come on.
I can't.
You literally
I
do
can't.
it all the time.
I can't.
Okay, just attempt.
Welcome
Come on.
You can't either.
Is that Australian? Can you do Australian?
Oh.
Yeah.
Welcome to Against All Odds podcast.
Whoa, that was British
pretty good.
and fucking and West Virginian.
Come on, you can try.
No, I can't.
Can we make this the whole intro, please? Absolutely. Welcome to the Against All Odds podcast. I'm RJ. We're here with Hunter and Rachel. And this is just the three of us spitballing again, a few different topics.
Freestyle.
That's right. I like the freestyle ones.
Yeah,
man.
me too.
They're kind of just like
It's
the
fun.
most relaxed.
Well, we're actually able to like talk a little bit easier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think like when we have a guest on, it's like we don't
The
know.
focus, yeah.
We don't know them, and we want them to be the focus. We
Right.
want to get their story out. But it's also like we're feeling our way through it, and it's like there's a lot of thinking going on.
A lot of thinking.
Where I feel like when it's just the three of us, we can toss up some great subjects and get down to the bottom of it.
What do you guys want to talk about? I've got some.
Give me some spicy stuff.
Okay.
What was yours?
In honor of Michael being on the podcast, right, having served time, I came across an old discussion that you had posted where you guys were talking about the prison system in the United States and how they're less focused on rehabilitation and more just confinement and punishment. So could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, I personally believe that. So partially, the prison systems in America are privately owned in certain states, and what happens is it creates, it's a big moneymaker, and instead of us putting funds toward, like let's say an addict is, struggling and they go and they steal something or they break into somewhere and they get caught. That person did that fueled by their addiction. And if they were mandated to addiction treatment and the funds that would normally go to the prison system was put toward funding actual like proper treatment and quality treatment, then, we'd probably be able to stop it. But instead, you have people that are now becoming convicted felons, can't get jobs, they're untreated addicts. And the only thing that has happened is they've just been sober, hopefully sober during the portion of time that they were incarcerated. And then they're put back on the streets with nothing. And no opportunities. And they're felons and
They're
nobody
set up
wants to
for
hire
failure.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
With Michael, he was blessed to have been put into a prison where, he got addiction treatment. He, was able to graduate with a college degree, and it gave him a better opportunity. And look at how well he's done,
Right.
In comparison to other people. So,
Yeah, I don't think the prison system is really set up very well to
No, not
get
at
people
all.
reintegrated into life.
No,
right?
it's all about money.
yeah, it's all about
For sure. It's just all about the money.
Yeah, somebody where Michael and I are from, there's a Facebook group and it's like a scanner group where somebody will listen to police scanners and they'll put into the group as like things are happening. So every time there's an overdose, they'll put in there like, oh, whatever, there's an overdose at the gas station in the bathroom. And people in the comments will be like, oh, these people need to go to prison. They need to arrest them. They need to stop Narcaning them, this and that. And I'm like sitting here thinking like, so you'd rather put this person in prison and your tax dollars go to just making the problem worse instead of like actually trying to help this person. you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a hard problem to solve, though, I think.
Yeah.
It's...
Yeah. I think and what I've seen is, so they have like drug court, right? And they have these programs that are set up, but even those have flaws. And I think that if treatment was just more widely accepted, like accessible, that's the word I'm looking for, not acceptable. if treatment was like real treatment and not just like being put on probation or like, you know, not addressing the real problems, I think we would have a much higher success rate for people, and as opposed to just locking them out. Because a lot of jails and a lot of prisons don't even have meetings coming to them. Did you know that?
Oh yeah.
Like, I always thought, you know,
Like
H&Is, I'm like, they go out there all the time, you know? When my baby daddy was locked up, they brought one meeting every like once a month, one meeting. And that's at the very least, I feel like that should be established, that there should be 12-step meetings in every single prison with opportunity to do that, right?
Well, and part of H&I that is kind of frustrating is they're not able to have sponsors.
Right.
So you're kind of missing a piece of that. But if that was like integrated into it, I think it would like really help people know for sure.
Yeah.
I think that the real thing, which has been hard to solve, I think, with public dollars, right, is like, how do I think the only answer to solving the addiction problem, right? So what we do right now is, okay, somebody gets incarcerated, right? Depending on what state you're in. Like in California, not so often, but in more conservative states, you're going to be incarcerated. And that's putting you into a community. It's just putting you into generally an unhealthy community, right? A community that's really set up to be like very gang oriented, right? You have to, you know, kind of go through that process. It kind of gears you in a way that when you get out, it's not real life, right? But they're putting you into a community. Just not one that benefits you. And so I think, you know, the answer is, at least in my mind, right, on like, it'd be amazing if somebody could figure this out, is like, how do you build accessible, free communities, right? Like in all these different major cities, right, where drug addicts can go, more than just like, I think like AA, right? Or like the 12-step community, but places where people can get jobs and like get education and access to resources. And I just think it's been really hard to do without people taking advantage of it. Yeah. Because, I mean, we're drug addicts, right? And anything that we could take advantage of, we did, right? And that's, I think, it's kind of the problem that society is up against, right? Because when I'm in my addiction, right, I do some, you know, pretty ridiculous things in order to continue fueling that addiction. Right. So it's just, it's tough, right? I feel like it's all the stories that we listen to. It's like they have to reach that really dark place in order to come back up, which prison a lot of times is that dark place. Yeah.
You know, as we're talking about this, I'm thinking of recently I've had conversations with people as to why, let's say, Oak Forest costs what it does. Can you explain the comparison between, like, let's say what a Medi-Cal facility would provide and why it is free in comparison to why Oak Forest costs what it does and what it provides and what the difference is between like staff and all of that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, we're an out-of-network facility, and a lot of people are like, oh, you should go in network. And there's people that are like, you know, the future is in network and that's where you're able to make money and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, the insurance companies, their rules and regulations around what they think is building real recovery or being able to hold it accountable in some way, in my opinion, is a flawed system, right? So I think it's set up to fail. I think it doesn't give people what they really need for long-term recovery. And so we've stayed out of network because being an out-of-network facility, I'm able to build my own curriculum, right? And I'm really, really passionate about that, because I think that addiction, one, you should have both an SUD and a mental health component into your treatment center if you have one, if you're going to one, and it should interweave both 12-step mental health in a family program, right? And the costs associated with that currently, to be able to do that, I think effectively, is you have to be out of network. And so being out of network, there's costs associated with that, but the quality is much, much greater. And I cannot stand behind something that I don't see a high efficacy in, right? So but then you're like, okay, well, I'm not super accessible to people that don't have resources and maybe just have, standard insurance. So it's a tough spot to be in. I think our healthcare system is flawed, but I think it's
to the max.
Yeah, but it's interesting because I think it's flawed due to the nature, not necessarily that the insurance companies are bad or that the healthcare system is bad. Because I'm not really one of those people. Yeah. I'm kind of more like, this is such an impossible problem to solve, and like, how do you regulate it? It's like, because we've talked about it in all these different podcasts that we've done. There's so many different ways up the mountain, and so many people have like their own methodology to it and how to get there, and it's like there is no one size fits all, and so it's such an obscure, abstract sort of thing. And how do you provide insurance that pays for it, tracks it, monitor? Right. You know what I mean? It's just it gets lost.
I think a lot of people just don't realize like the cost of hiring like really great people that you can depend on and trust. And they don't also realize the cost of like having all master level clinicians and a doctor, and then also the cost of food and all of these things. And I think people get mad about that and they're like, well, this should be free. And it's like, it's frustrating to me because it's like, if you found a way to make it free for everybody, I would be behind it 100%.
Yeah,
for sure.
Do anything to do that. But it's like, how is that even possible?
Yeah, it's mainly just the quality of care too. Like for anybody you've been to state funded facilities, right?
Yeah, I've been to
and
like
the difference between
couple free ones.
The difference between a free facility and somewhere like Oak Forest is just, they're not even comparable. You know what I'm saying? Right. And that's not to say you can't get clean. You can't do it at a state fund. I know plenty of people that went through state funded. That's all they had. Right. And they did it because at the end of the day, if like you're ready to do it, you're going to do it regardless. But to have the resources to go to somewhere like Oak Forest, you definitely have an upper hand for sure. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of costs, man, and I think more than anybody. I mean, I generally don't talk about it, but Oak Forest doesn't make a ton of money. Yeah, it's like I'm super stoked when I'm breaking even and we're in the black, like just in the black. Yeah, and I've operated so many months in the red, like I can't even tell you. You know what I mean? And it's like. But my heart and soul is in it. Yeah. And Oak Forest to me is like, what I look at are the outcomes. And you look at that bonfire meeting and you've got 200, 250 people coming there, and like Colin was talking about. He's like, that's my home group. Yeah. It changed my whole idea of what AA could be. Right. Like that's it. Or like people taking birthdays, like, and I hold on to this idea that as long as we just keep doing the right thing for long enough, that community is going to grow and the business will take care of itself. Yeah. Right. And it's like just having that serious faith, you know what I mean? That I will not sacrifice any of the values no matter what. Right. And I think it's built a really safe community, but there's costs associated. Right. However, but for what we offer, we are one of the best priced systems in, I think, the nation. And I've gone
in the world actually, and I've been to a lot of places.
Yeah, I mean, I make it extremely accessible, and if somebody really wants to come, I mean, we scholarship so many people, and I've never made somebody leave on the account of money. Yeah, if somebody has made it in, my guarantee is if I've accepted you, I will never make you leave because of money. Right, and not once have we ever done that in 7.5 years. And I think that's why we have the name and the reputation, and we have the community that we have. And I mean, a lot of the employees that we have are successful alumni that were scholarship cases.
I was a scholarship kid.
Yeah,
I was.
And many times that's the difference maker.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%.
So you're like, oh shit, these people actually care.
Do you feel like the scholarship clients are normally very grateful, or do you get ones coming in? Yeah. I'm so curious because when I like the couple times that I've been scholarship, there was times where I've still felt very entitled. I'm like, you guys are honored. It's an honor for you that I'm here. you know, type thing. But then I've also gone into situations like when I humbled my ass and I was super grateful
50-50.
and like 50-50.
I would
That's
say
a natural. I feel like that's natural. Just always curious.
But people
to
can
see.
switch too. You know, they can come in ungrateful and.
It's a moving target. I would say it's 50-50. I think 50-50 is a good way to put it. In a lot of cases that I scholarship, they won't even know that they're scholarship.
Oh, okay.
Just because I actually feel like it's actually a disservice for them to know. So like in many cases, like insurance will cut out or whatever it is, their scholarship, but nobody knows except for the senior team. Right. And so that person still shows up as authentically as they can.
Right.
Without messing with that process. I also think it can be a lever, and I don't like to use that lever. Right. It's kind of like, you know, I feel like when I was, it's like giving somebody a carrot to stay sober.
Yeah.
I don't think it works. You know what I mean? Like, hey, if you just stay sober this long, we'll give you this. Right. I think that sets up a wrong motivation. I think also using the lever of, you know, you're on scholarship can be, you know, not properly motivated. So usually they don't know.
Yeah. Wow.
You know?
Oh, I knew. They were like,
You're here for free.
Well, once I started fucking around, they were like, listen, you don't need to be here, which rightfully so. I was like, okay. You know, they had to put a little bit of fear into me.
When you went to Crossroads, though, you probably had to go through like an application process, right? Because that seems like that type of place.
My mom did everything.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it was pretty quick.
Really?
It was within a couple days of like they had a bed. They said yes. We had to pay I think like a couple $100 for medical, like my meds or something.
Like
but that was it.
Like a medical float.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it. Okay. Was there a specific moment when you realized that you were like actually recovered in this round of sobriety? Like what was the point or instances where you realized like, holy shit, I'm actually like not responding to something the way that I used to, or like just the like, oh my God, I'm actually kind of.
It was actually just recently.
Yeah.
Share yours.
Like going through like the stuff with Kira. I realized like, cause like even in sobriety, like maybe my thought wouldn't have been, oh, I want to go get loaded, but I would have acted out
in other ways
type of way.
Yeah.
Well, I was able to like practice acceptance and be like, you know, kind of like, okay, well, what's like the next part of my life? And, you know, to trust God and come out here and get back into the fellowship here. And whereas before I would have like panicked and blew up my life and just, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But instead I just trusted that it was what it was supposed to be.
Hell yeah.
You know?
What about you?
That's great. You know, for me, it was early recovery. I have some examples, I'm sure, today, but the ones I always go back to, and I think it's because I had, you know, 4 years and then 3 years without working a program, without having any spiritual life. So I have something to compare it to, but this sobriety, I got through the step work really quick, right? And for me, it was like one morning, I think I was just about through my amends. And I don't think I'd gotten steps 10 and 11 yet, but I had definitely done like 75% of my amends.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the morning meeting at my home group, 7 a.m., got out at 8:15, and I was driving to the gym, and it had like rained, and there was like clouds in the sky. And I started tearing up and crying as I'm driving, right? And there was a song by, you know, Owl City?
Yes.
Okay.
Fireflies?
Yeah. Okay, so
I like to make myself bleed.
yes.
Yeah.
So my first experience in rehab when I was 21, we went and worked out, went to the gym, and I was feeling good, and I was like in with the boys. And I remember we came back to the rehab, and I'm on a pink cloud, right? And it was right when Fireflies came out, and it was playing on the radio. We were making smoothies, you know what I mean? And I just felt like I was a part of the boys, you know? And that was like a really crucial moment for me. And then fast forward to this sobriety, you know, so many years later, I'm leaving. I had finished my amends, and I'm a big Pandora guy. And I was like, had Pandora playing, and Fireflies came on. And it was the first time I'd heard it in like,
since.
I mean, not since, but I mean, a lot of years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like a random song too, you know? And it came on and I remember just like, I'm crying, like happy tears.
Yeah.
And I'm driving to the gym and I just, for the first time since I could ever remember, I felt like I was totally okay with me, with where my life was. I didn't need to have a plan. I didn't need to pretend I was somebody that I wasn't. And I was just calm.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like a certain level of peace I had never felt. And I literally was just bawling, you know what I mean? And I got to the gym and I'm like wiping my face, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, that was the first moment I felt like, it talks about in the big book, like we will be amazed before we were halfway through. Right. And I see that as, you know, halfway through the immense process. And I was there, you know what I mean? I was more than halfway through and something had hit me. You know what I mean? It like hit me. It wasn't some overwhelming, like burning in the bush, like God speaking to me.
It was a moment though. You had a moment.
Present.
Yeah.
I was present for the first time. And since I was maybe like 5 years old, I felt like I was present. And I was just like, oh, this is the greatest fucking thing ever.
Yeah.
And I have not desired to drink or use drugs since that moment, you know?
That was your moment.
That was it. Like that was it fucking like the gates opened and I've never had an urge or needed to like not. You know what I mean? Like I can be around drugs, I can be around alcohol. I've done so many interventions where I've taken people's fucking heroin and coke and crack and I mean all my shit and have had no desire.
Right.
And not even like, oh my God, I gotta stay away from this.
Yeah.
Like no problem at all. Like I'm looking at it like it's an inanimate object.
Wild. That's a wild, yeah.
It was just removed.
Yeah.
Like it was removed. And you know, and then since then it's like I've stayed in 10, 11, 12 and I do those things and I got my things and it's never had to return. And there's just so many things in life today, like business wise, I think like what you were talking about with Kira, right? It's like I've had some catastrophic things happen, like catastrophic, like, oh my God, we just lost how much money in 30 days? You know what I mean? Like just mind numbing numbers. And not knowing the way out and not having an answer. And it's all of it is on me to figure out and being totally calm.
Yeah.
Like that's not me. You know what I mean? I'd be freaking out. I'd run. I'd want to hide.
I don't know about totally calm, but
yeah. Maybe stress a little bit.
Better.
But the thing is, I won't make decisions that are
no, I know what you mean. Yeah.
heinous. You know what I
You
mean?
weren't being
Like
irrational.
Yeah.
right. Calm in the sense that
you weren't calm.
I
was stressing a little bit.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. But it wasn't even so much about me. It was like I was worried about like, oh
No,
my
I know.
God, man, how am I going to pay everybody?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
No, feelings are normal. I feel like
Yeah.
there's a difference between, you know, like just because you're recovered doesn't mean you're going to be perfect and calm and collected all the time.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love.
Yeah.
I was just thinking. I love that Rachel just busts out into song every time she's like, "Oh, that song," and then she just starts singing it.
You would not believe your eyes.
Fireflies, it's such a good song, dude. It's so good, dude. Every time I hear it, I'm just like a little kid again, dude.
It's a good ass song. It really does. When they play that shit at TJ Maxx,
Whoa! That's a
get
vibe.
you.
That's the right spot.
that's
for
the
that song.
playlist. They
I'm
love
buying
that
shit.
in there.
If I hear that, I'm buying
Yeah.
shit.
I
tell
can
you
just
that.
picture you like dancing through the aisles, happy tears strolling down.
I want to cry right now. It's so good. It's so good.
What about you?
Oh, me, right. I think for me, number one was when like around a couple months in when my boyfriend died, right? That for me was the fact that I didn't go run and get high immediately, and I was able to like sit with the feelings and also felt connected to something. Like there was just like this, I don't know how to explain it properly. Like I was in shock and I was obviously like extremely upset about this loss. I was definitely grieving, but at the same time, like simultaneously, I also felt this like peace that I was going to make it through it. And I had never felt that before in my life. Like I had never felt like that. And then I went through that. And then I think there's just little instances all the time that kind of just remind me. Number one, just the way that I react to everything in my life, right? Because I was a sick bitch for a really long time. I was very hot-headed. I had an attitude all the time. Just the way that I show up. But then also, so a couple years ago, I was going through a lot of stuff with the boy's dad, right? And I was going through a very stressful time. I had a daycare basically out of my house. I was watching all of these kids for barely any money. I was stressed out. I wasn't sleeping. There was all this. And I go into the shed in the house that I was renting, and I found an entire case of like 1,000 whippets. Like, the little
canisters, little CO2 canisters, brand
new, like there. And I was going, and like my addict brain would have just really been like, hey, let's
no one's gonna know. You can't test for it,
And the fact that I literally just didn't even think about that, and I moved the box, and I didn't think about it till later. I'm like, a whole fucking box of whippets, bitch. Yeah. And the fact that I wasn't be like, sell this, I was struggling for money. Like, none of those thoughts, like immediately afterwards, I was like, didn't consider it, but I was like, damn, the fact that I didn't consider that is crazy, so it's just,
you've been in there babysitting lit off whippets. Damn.
Oh yeah, it was just I realized in that moment I was like, brand new bitch.
That's tight.
Yeah.
So right now you have different lives, and did you think like you had this thought that it can happen again,
like drink and use again? I think I live every day like knowing, like I think like what Colin was saying in the thing, like I agree with all the 12-step sentiments, right? Like I think I definitely have another run in me.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I have another recovery in me, only because the way that I drink and use is to die.
Right.
Like I don't go a little bit.
Yeah, there's no surface level. It's like you're going to the core of the earth.
Speedballs to my neck. And it's like, it's there within like 4 or 5 days. And I think to answer that question, it's like, I don't think about drinking and using, but I definitely believe and know that I have drug addiction, alcoholism coursing through my veins. You know what I mean? Like it is coursing through my veins. And you give me any amount of substance, I will go until the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
Right. So I definitely think I can be there.
Yeah.
I just have to put in the work every day not to be there.
I think it's crazy. Like, I feel like people, like especially posting, like I went viral like last week, and somebody was going, and it was like, I wrote like, my name is Hunter. I'm a recovering addict, and I have this many days sober. And that blew up in a group, and these people were like, oh, you have that many days, but you still feel like you're like an addict. And I'm like, yeah, like I don't feel like now that I'm like that far away from the last time I used that if I use now, I could like manage it. Yeah. Like I could be like a gentleman fucking smoking crack with my pinky out or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's crazy because like I've seen people that have relapsed after like literally 30 years sober.
Oh yeah.
And they're like literally like straight back to it.
Right.
It's so wild.
I don't think any of us are immune. I'm very aware of that. I just stay in the day. I don't really like to think about the future. I remember the days where I used to get tripped up. I'm a literal heroin addict and I remember being like, oh, well, you're telling me I can't have a glass of champagne at my wedding? Like, number one, you're single. You're a crackhead heroin addict right now. Calm down. That's like way, yeah, but sure. Like getting tripped up on things like that, like forever. So no one is immune. If I stop doing the stuff that I'm doing to like stay sober and stay in a healthy mindset, I could very easily relapse as well. But I just try to keep in doing that.
Right.
That's all.
I was just saying one of the craziest excuses of like people not coming into treatment sometimes is like, oh, I have a job, and they're like working at somewhere like somewhere that they could easily get the job back,
For sure.
Yeah.
Legit like a fast food restaurant. They're like, I can't leave my job. Like,
they have some entry level thing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is just people have a hard time giving up that double life. You know what I mean? Because they've been maintaining it and holding on to it. Yeah. And they're like, and to like
your safety blanket. You know what I'm saying? When you take away someone's drugs or whatever they want to do, it's like you're ripping the most like intimate, part of them from them, and that's all they know to survive right now.
Right.
So they'll say anything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure you guys have heard, we've talked about it on one of these episodes. You guys have probably heard crazy excuses, but I guarantee you, whoever's saying these excuses genuinely probably believes them in their head.
Yeah.
They're like, I can't. Sorry, I got this job pumping gas. I cannot leave. Like
100%.
Yeah.
We hear stuff like that all the time.
Okay. This one's just a silly, goofy one. Okay, icks about people. What are your biggest icks? Icks about, it could be in a relationship or just people in general, like things that you don't
RJ's
like when
got
people
it
do,
locked and loaded.
No, I don't. You
or
go
that are
first.
like a non-negotiable. Like if you see someone, like you're definitely not going to be dealing with this person in your life, like if they do these things.
Hunter's like if somebody
I can
has.
start with mine if you guys are not ready.
Yeah, you go first.
Okay, mine is. I mean, these are just for my people in general. Number one, if you don't put the shopping cart away, I'm gonna judge the fuck. I'm
facts.
gonna judge you so hard, okay? And I'm gonna think you're a bad person, and I'm definitely gonna roll my eyes. If you're rude to service industry employees or anyone in customer service, I don't fuck with that shit.
If you've got a British accent, I don't like you.
I would agree on the service thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Really,
that's
if you're
one of the
rude
big-
I really
Yeah.
can't stand a rude person. I can't. I cannot. But especially just the people that are literally just doing their job for no reason.
And people that are just like stuck.
Yeah.
Like it's their job. Like they're stuck.
Yeah,
Like,
you
there's-
can't. They literally cannot.
Yeah.
Like you're going after the wrong one.
RJ has got so many that he
Okay,
can't
let's.
say.
Yeah, he's
No,
like.
I don't. I
remember-
really don't.
Okay,
You remember
let's.
that dinner we had and it was the controversial topics
Yep.
that we were talking about? RJ is just like, he wants them to come out.
He's
No.
waiting to bust him out. Okay,
No.
what are your icks?
I mean, I think if somebody smells bad, that's like
Oh,
Yeah.
an
That can be it.
like bad hygiene. You know what I mean? It's no go for me.
Yeah. What
all
else?
right, next topic.
Next.
Do you not like this? We can go
There's
on.
just ones he just.
Okay, we'll talk about.
I already know what he wants to say.
Okay.
It's already known.
Yeah.
Wait, is it what I think it is? Your Disney World experience?
That's one for
Yes.
sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Angie even knows that one.
No, I'm not
not.
saying it because you won't remember to cut it out.
Oh shit! Ick.
Damn.
That's an ick. Damn, that's an ick right there.
Sorry.
That was like you
soon.
said that shit with flames in your voice. That was a flamethrower.
That was fire. dude.
Headshot.
Sorry.
Boom.
Yeah. Had to get him back for the mouth breather.
Okay. Have you guys ever had to be on pain meds in recovery or any kind of like medicine?
Nope.
No.
It's one of my biggest fears. To be
I have.
honest, you have.
I have a couple times.
What was that like? And what was
It
it
was
for?
terrifying. So first was when after I had Silas, like I literally had to shoot a human out of my body, and
Oh
they
my
put me
God,
on like
Jesus
Tylenol,
fuck.
codeine afterwards because I had to like get some shit done or whatever.
Did you have the epidural and all that?
I did
stuff?
have the epidural, yeah. But the epidural, I mean, you're in so much. Your body's going through so much in that time. I feel like I wasn't like lit or really feeling that.
In England, they give you laughing gas.
Really? That's
yeah,
it?
like
or
Kira-
both?
Yeah, both.
Hell
Kira
yeah.
was lit off laughing gas when
love
she was
that.
And
getting
just pushing out a baby, bro. I can't.
Laughing.
I don't know how you guys do that.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm
And no,
amazed.
it's wild. No, it's wild. I don't
I
want to
hope I
get into
never
that.
have
It's
to watch that
actually,
ever again.
Oh god.
it's.
Just watching it.
I did okay. So when I had Johnny, I was a teenager, right, mind you, and I'm about to push out this baby. My epidural had worn off, and the nurses come in like I'm a literal child, and they're like, "Okay, it's time to push," and I'm like, "I will suck this baby up back into my body. You need to get the epidural man in here right now." I'm not doing it. I was refusing to like do that, but also they were like, "Oh, do you want to see?" And I'm like, "Fuck no." There was a TV that was off and had a reflection, and I made them cover cover it with a thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to see anything going on at all down there. Like, please leave me out of this. Get someone else to do it.
Oh my God, Jesus.
But yeah, so I had to, after Silas, I had to be on like, I don't know, it was just like Tylenol, codeine or whatever. It was very minimal, but that was my first time in recovery having to be on anything. And I was fucking terrified.
What did you do?
I told my sponsor, like, I made sure I was like, okay, like, I need to be on this, right? I'm going to take it as whatever.
Prescribed.
I think my mom gave it to my mom was over around in that time. I think she like gave it to me. I made sure I took it exactly as prescribed, only if needed. And I was very honest with my sponsor. Even in that moment, like when I was going through that, I still felt like, oh my God, what if I get sick? You know, I think it was like a week long.
If you get
I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be dope sick. Like, you know, and I was even more scared about that and whatever. And then that was fine. That ended up being fine. So I was like, holy shit. Okay. Like I made it. It's fine. And then I started getting really sick with like stomach problems and stuff, and they had to give me stuff at the hospital. I was admitted to the hospital a couple times, and they were giving me way stronger shit because I was like basically dying.
Wow.
So
what happened? Why were you?
I have ulcerative colitis, so that means I get ulcers in my intestines.
Yeah.
And so I was like, literally, this is pretty graphic, but I was like shitting large amounts of blood. Oh my God. And I couldn't keep any food down.
He's born?
This is after. So, and stress. So it's an autoimmune illness.
Yeah.
So I had Silas, and then I was dealing with all the stuff with their dad, with my kid's dad. So he went off, was relapsed, was like dating a prostitute, was doing all this violent, like doing all of these insane things. And so I was like dealing with all of this and taking care of kids and a new baby and postpartum. And so I think all of the stress of that like took a major toll on I got physically ill. Right. So yeah, so I had to be in the hospital. I was skinnier when I got sick than I was in my active addiction. And I was really skinny in my active addiction. Wow. So I had to go on Dilaudid when I was admitted one of these times. And that was intense. That was intense. I used to love those things.
Me too.
And you know what? I still, when it first, like that first one went, like my first little dose or whatever. And I was like, damn. But immediately after that initial like minute, I fucking hated how I felt. Right. I felt immediately like malady. Like I was like, I just wanted to punch someone. And I realized immediately like how fucking miserable I felt. Like I didn't enjoy the feeling anymore, which was actually really, I was like, damn, damn, it's good. But like, I was like, damn, I can't even like enjoy this. So I was just miserable. And I was still talking to my sponsor about it, but I still like, there was this part of my brain that like wanted, even though I was like miserable in it, that kept like, was like, oh, when's my next one? Or like, you know, this or whatever. Yeah. And then as soon as thank God I got out of the hospital, it kind of scared me a minute once my brain was like on that, like looking forward to the next time that the nurse was going to come. I went home on nothing that time. And then I was like, okay, still fine. Still, as long, you know, I was being very honest with my sponsor. I was doing all the things, tried to avoid it as much as possible, but
I think it's your intention behind
100%,
you know,
100%. If you're going to the ER to get some shit and you got a little something, then it's different.
100%.
But if you are in, you know, I know people in sobriety that get major surgeries that don't take pain meds, which I respect. But at the same time, I don't think anybody should.
We know somebody that broke, I don't know if I should say his name, but didn't he break his back and he had 20 years of sobriety?
Oh, yeah.
Like 20 years of sobriety, and then started taking the pain meds from it and like
relapsed.
Fucked his life bad.
Yeah,
couldn't stop.
Scary.
And
I mean, that's a huge fear.
Lost everything. Like had a huge excavation business and like lost everything.
That's so sad. I mean, that's a real fear when that happens, and that's why you try to avoid it at all costs, right? Like at least I do. I don't go in there. I never went in. I remember just how terrified and like what it felt like to go through that. But at the same time, like I've had sponsees that have a lot of health issues that have had to go to the ER, you know, for this and that. And it's 100%, like you said, about your intention and your motive behind it. And as long as you're not being sneaky and you're just like being very honest and talking to someone else, I think it is doable as long as you're very, very cautious.
Do you guys think that there are people that, like, you know how when it's not necessarily an eating disorder, it's disordered eating, and it's not as far in as like being a full-blown eating disorder? Do you think that's possible with addicts, like people that are like just like struggle with like substance abuse, but maybe not necessarily like full-blown addiction?
Yeah.
And then they break that, and then they're able to drink and use certain things like a normal person?
I do. I think there's levels. I think there. Go ahead. I see you nodding. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, man. I think that what you're saying is true. And when I first got sober, the first couple of years when I was just like a zealot, I was like, oh, you're a drug addict and alcoholic, like automatically. Like if you're in rehab or you're going to meetings or whatever, like you better work the 12 steps and you better sponsor a bunch of people. Otherwise you're going to drink and you're going to die. Mm-hmm. And then over the last 7.5 years, I've watched so many people come in, get sober, work the 12 steps. Not so many, but a number of them. I got so many different examples. And then at a certain point, decided to drink and use again. And since have been drinking and using like a normal person, right? And that really, it doesn't make me want to do it, right? Because I know how I drink and use. But I've watched some of these people do this and be able to maintain and not blow their life up.
But it's changed your perspective on it, even if you wouldn't want to do it.
And I'm not endorsing it, right? But I also think a lot of people can end up in rehab that are in that sort of state, right, that they're not full-blown needle in the neck junkie drug addicts like me.
Yeah.
That can drink and use like a normal person because they are normal people.
Yeah.
I also recently heard one of our good buddies talked about how he thinks that there's kind of like two different types of alcoholism or drug addiction. And I fully agree with this, which is there's the one type that's like the real alcoholic drug addicts, probably like the three of us. You know what I mean? Crackhead,
yep.
But all the way. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I want to have a glass of wine and I'm sticking a needle in my neck. You know what I mean? Like I like the effects produced by drugs and alcohol to the point that I cannot stop until I either am going to die or it's literally ripped from me. Right. And then I think there's this other type that is people that have like an anxiety disorder and they're extremely anxious people. And they drink and they use to
self-medicating.
Yeah, to cope with their level of anxiety. And with those individuals, and I'm thinking of one individually that you and I both know really well, that's been able to drink and use since he started for the last couple of years and been fine. But when I first met him, he was the most anxious 20-year-old kid. I mean, to the point, like he'd go into a meeting, hood on, shaking, sweaty palms, scared of human interaction, right? Yeah. And he stayed sober for a lot of years and he worked the 12 steps and he became very socialized. And I watched his anxiety over those years working a 12-step based program go all the way down, right? To where he's like a very non-anxious person today. And then he started to drink and use and he's done it totally normal since, right? So, I think that some people have a really, it's like a really bad anxiety disorder. And I've also watched where the 12 steps has been able to, I think.
So what you're saying is
solve a lot of that.
It's the underlying stuff. And then maybe if you find a resolution to that, then maybe they're self-medicating.
It's tricky, right? Because we're sitting here talking on this like podcast and there's still that piece of me that's like, however, you know what I mean? There's,
well, because you never know where it's going to lead. I feel like
that's the problem.
People can do well. There was a period of time where I could do well, like in my little motions where I would try to be normal. It wasn't for long, but sometimes I would go a little bit and I would be like kind of normal or whatever. But I've seen people be normal for years and then it turns out that they're super unhappy. They're actually not, like you never really know.
Yeah.
I think that there's definitely levels to addiction. There's like tiers, like I would say that I would put myself on the top tier. Like I cannot stay sober without a 12-step program. I cannot, I need to make sure that I am doing all of these things. I know people that can stay sober without doing anything. You know what I mean? And like stay fully sober and just not do anything, and they're happy and they're fine. That's not me. I can't do that. Like I've tried 100 times, and I look at other people that can do that, and then there's the people that have gone through the process and I've seen other people start drinking or start, but at the end of the day, I don't know what their life really looks like, right? I don't know if they're drinking themselves to sleep at night and they're just waking up, you know, you don't know.
Right. Well, and it's like, you know, I believe, you know, God has given us free will, right? And everybody's got free will. And I do believe that the recovery process, at least for me, in my experience, has been like that example I said. It's like stretching out a rubber band, you know, and I had 4 years, then I had 3 years. And it took me getting sober, thinking I could have some drinks, you know, ending in disaster, getting sober again, thinking I could have some drinks, ending in disaster, right? For me to be like, oh, no, I have to do everything in my humanly power to not pick up another drink or a drug. And I think everybody's on their path.
Yeah. You did the experimenting.
Yeah. And I think everyone kind of has to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like whatever
True.
that experimenting looks like.
Not fentanyl, because you'll be dead.
Don't like, yeah.
That's
for sure.
That's past experimenting, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
Like if you're using fentanyl, heroin, or meth, I don't know if those necessarily are drugs that you can use and be normal.
I'm just a little
You know,
experiment.
it's like
Just using
Just a little
fentanyl like a
recreational
gentleman.
fent.
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
What would you tell someone who's had a bad experience with the 12 steps or AA? Like they've gone to a meeting, they maybe had, you know.
Yeah. I feel like we heard that today.
Yeah.
Right. And we were in an earlier podcast, which is in everything in me wanted to like jump.
Me too.
You know what I mean? And I
Like, why is that all of us?
and
It's
I was
not all
like,
of us.
no, you got to be a good messenger. You got to carry it well. I don't want to refute somebody. You know what I mean? I don't want to, I want somebody to continue to be able to get their own experience and whatever that is. But, you know, 12-step communities are just that. It's a community of people, right? And people are flawed, and you're going to see flawed people at work. You're going to see flawed people in 12-step. You're going to see flawed people driving on the freeway, you know, and there's because we're flawed by nature. And if you've gone into a 12-step community, you've had a bad experience, you know, that's one tiny little vein of what it could be. It's like saying, well, I drove on the freeway today and somebody cut me off. And so, you know, screw driving on freeways.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, you know, you're still going to have to get on the highway to get to where you're going.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, 12-step is very similar. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know, if you've had bad experiences, welcome to the human existence. This is what it is. It's a messy ride. And if you keep coming back and you know, like Colin was saying, you know, just don't ever give up. Right. And don't brand something based upon one experience. What is the thing in the big book? It says, you know, don't miss the forest for the ugliness of a few of its trees.
Oof.
Right.
Okay.
And I that's what I think that is. That's my real response to that, because my first time going to AA, I was in Utah. I was 21, and it was in the basement of a church, and I was with all these like older, burly Utah like cow folk. You know what I mean? Like real. I mean,
the cow folk.
it was the cow folk. They smelled like cow fields. You know what I mean? Like boots. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
They gave you the ick.
It was an immediate ick, dude. I was like, I'm not a ranch hand. You know what I mean? Like, you guys.
Let me ask you this. Out of all the people that you know that have like truly, honestly worked a 12-step program, like how it's supposed to be done, how many of them are sober, happy, healthy, and enjoying life and helping other people?
I would say
all of them.
all of them.
All of them.
So to me, it sounds like those people went to meetings that they found like unsavory, but they didn't
I
work the
had
steps
a terrible
in the right way.
experience in AA when I first found my first AA meeting ever. I swore to never go back ever again. I raised my hand. I said, "I'm Rachel. I'm an addict," and they were like, "This is not where you belong." And I had a whole different experience when I moved to Austin. we had to go to AA meetings. I saw how open-minded and like accepting they were. And that's the thing is I try to stress to people when they tell me things like that, like I went to AA and I don't like God and there's the people don't accept me in there. They have some shit to say. The people are not the program.
Right.
That's what I try to reiterate that every single time, because there is a difference between the people and the program and the 12 steps, right? There's going to be shitty people everywhere, unfortunately, especially in meetings, because it's a bunch of sick people trying to get well and just trying to figure it out. You have to see past all that bullshit, find the people that like, find your people and find the program. That's, I mean, they're completely separate things.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't know. I think there's that TED Talk that's the opposite. Everything we think we know about addiction is wrong. And where he's talking about ultimately the opposite of addiction is connection. And he talks about like the rat park experiment. If you're watching this, I'd recommend go watch that TED Talk. And it just, the 12-step community it's about facilitating community connection. Right. So like you're connecting to a community, you got to find your community within the community. Right. Right. And not only that, but then when you actually do the program, which is not the people, right. You get a connection to a power greater than yourself, whatever that may be. And I think it's just about creating all these different layers of connection. Right. And so especially if you're new and you haven't worked the program and you're in a place, I always get tripped up and tripped out about this idea that like, okay, well, I have a disease that centers in my mind that speaks to me in my own voice. And so the person who's saying these things about meeting, are they even an accurate reporter of the facts, given that if they are still in a diseased state of mind, is their inner dialogue even telling them the truth? Right. Right. And I think that's the real thing that we're up against.
They'll find the one thing. They'll walk into a meeting and no matter what, even if it's a good one, they'll be like, oh, I don't like that wallpaper. It's time to go, which is another, 100%. But I think the main thing is like in my instance, I was so determined. The reason I went to an AA meeting is because there wasn't enough NA meetings and I was doing a 90 and 90. Yeah. I was so determined. I went to like a 7 a.m. early bird AA meeting with my NA ass. And I was an NA girl.
No. She said addict. And she got like,
I was like, I'm Rachel. I was trying to work. I was an NA girly at the time.
But I feel like that's a very East Coast thing. I feel like it is.
It depends where, just like in Florida, NA is huge. It was just more prominent for addicts, and AA is like a bunch of old people in a room, that were a lot more judgmental and not as open-minded in where I'm from. But AA in Austin is nothing like that. So it really depends where you go, like all of these things. And I would just encourage the people, especially the old timers in the meeting, to maybe just,
relax.
Principles before personalities, mate.
Relax.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's really upsetting when I see, like, I've talked to so many people. I'm like, they're like, oh, I'm going to try a meeting, or like they tell me their experience with the meeting, and it's so unfortunate that because of a bad experience with another human in that room, that they feel ostracized. Like they just feel like they're that's not the place for them, when in reality that's the place for anybody. So I just wish people would fucking be nice always. Yeah.
But they're not.
No, they're not.
But they're not.
They're not.
And it's all messy. Yeah. And the messy part of it is kind of also the magic of it too. Yeah. You know what I mean?
True.
It's all part of the puzzle.
It works.
It works. It works in some weird, fucked up, messy, chaotic
type of way.
It works.
Yeah. Fuck. It does.
Isn't that life? Shit.
It does.
Give us something good, Rachel.
I feel like she's about to start the most fire song that we've ever heard.
This
like
summer.
Some Tenacious D type song.
Rachel Slocum.
What do you guys think of people recording in the gym?
It depends.
We just did it this morning.
If they're recording themselves and it's content creation, that's tight. But if they're recording to make fun of other people, then you're a piece of shit.
Do you follow that Joey Swole?
I don't really follow him, but I've seen his
You've seen his videos?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're talking about the people with like the tripods and they're setting it up.
I just
and
in general, people recording at the gym. I know there's different reasons that people record. I know there's content creators. There's people that just record their sets to see their form and stuff like that. I just always see it's such a debate online. Whenever I see any gym videos, people, especially for women, I've noticed it's more usually towards the women than the men, but people are always in the like ban filming in all gyms and like all this. I was just curious what you guys
I don't mind it. Yeah, I don't mind it at all.
For me, but also be mindful of other people, right? Like,
yeah, I think that a lot of it comes from people's own insecurities.
Yeah.
People that are upset about it because they themselves are insecure to do something like that.
Yeah.
Because it takes some balls.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like,
I don't record in public ever. I'm a content creator and I can't even take a selfie outside of myself. If someone else is in it, like you guys and we're taking a group flick, but you will never see me like,
doing your thing.
I cannot
you do
do
too.
it.
I see you flexing all the time outside.
Me?
Yeah.
What?
Well, unless you just find like a...
Oh, I find a nook and a cranny. If you see me in a picture outside, I have a hidden remote with my tripod and I am in a nook.
She's like, believe me, nobody sees.
And if I, even at the hotel, I took those last time I was here, I took pictures like outside. I went in the cuttest cut I could find in the back of the hotel and some of the windows were right there. And every 2 seconds I was like pretending I was doing something else, like running down the stairs, looking in the bushes, like pretending I'm looking for something. Like I don't know. I would love to have the confidence to do that. I would love to have the confidence to do that.
Like I'm always like, wow, man, there's a lot of confidence there to do that. You know what I mean? It's like, if anything, I just don't want to mess it up, like walk in their frame or whatever. But
I was just curious because I see people get heated.
Oh yeah, I mean at Golds you see people do it, creating content all the time.
Yeah.
I just think it's easy to be a hater, and it's harder to do the other thing.
Yeah.
You know
I do think like I think that we do obviously like I really like the creators and the people that post their stuff that are mindful of others. Like some people, like if you wake up, roll out of bed and go to the gym and you're not feeling your best and stuff like that and you don't want to be recorded and you're in the background.
I think just tell them.
Yeah, but it shouldn't have to. I feel like on that aspect, it shouldn't really be on them. I think that there is a way probably to record yourself to make sure it's almost just on you. You know what I'm saying? If you have a whole group of people behind you, someone that just got in the fucking gym is trying to lose weight, whatever, they're not in a comfortable state, and then they're in, like being filmed without their permission. I do see that side of it. There now it goes to a whole nother extent because I've seen people walk them into videos and be like, what the fuck? Don't fucking record, when it's very like obvious that they're not trying to record other people.
You know that, have you seen that guy Garrett Welsh? I post about him a lot. And he was like legit like 400 pounds. He was huge.
Oh yeah.
And then he like got sober and lost like legit like over 200 pounds.
Wow. No.
And he's like constantly in the gym like,
hell yeah,
because he's proud,
Yeah,
hell yeah.
I love to see people recording in the gym, like they're especially people that are just like they're just trying to get the progress, they're trying to get their sets down. I'm always like, yeah, one day I'll have that.
It motivates me, honestly.
Yeah,
I love watching content like that.
Me too.
Yeah,
me too. How are we feeling? Do you guys have any questions?
How do you think? How do you think the last few podcasts have gone?
I think they've gone really well.
Yeah.
I think we are still trying to find our exact groove of like how and what is going on, but I think that we are finding it. And I think that so far this has been...
I think we've already had some like really dope guests though.
100%.
For just starting.
Some
100%.
Really, every single person that's come on, their story like really
Incredible.
Is... like this against all odds, thing where I'm just like, damn, dude, the polarity in these people's lives and stories, where they came from, where they got to, what they lost, what they got back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I think it's incredible. I feel like it's changed me as a person, just listening to all these different stories and, it's amazing. I mean, life is just an incredible experience.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've had just the opportunity to talk to these people that have really lived life in their own way to such an extreme. And I think it's just fascinating.
Yeah, I think we're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
I have to say that. I think we're doing pretty well. I would love to hear from the viewers at home. Who do you guys want to see on our pod? Drop some in the comments, or, you know, reach out and let us know. I want to know. It doesn't have to necessarily be people in recovery. Just anybody with a good story. You know what I'm saying? Anybody who's been through it.
We've had
against all odds.
We've had a lot of really good comments of like, oh, this is already my favorite podcast. Like, I'm so inspired by this. You
That
know,
makes
stuff
my
like
heart
that.
so happy.
It's so tight.
It's a cool
Makes my
thing.
heart so happy.
It's really dope.
Yeah.
Love that.
We love you guys so much.
Oh, yeah. Are we good?
Yeah.
Or do we
Where
have
we
more?
at? I think an hour's fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Tight.
Love you.
Thank you, guys.